It's no secret, I make videos about the New York Rangers once in a while, and because of that, there is a pretty decently sized portion of the fan base here on Lego Rocks 99 that are Rangers fans, as there is with a whole bunch of other teams. Of course, we got Canucks fans, Red Wings fans, Canadiens fans, and then a whole bunch of people that are fans of the Rangers, the Kings, the Blue Jackets. You've got a few Devils fans in there too, so I kind of understand that videos like these antagonize people. Okay, no, not people. I'm not doing that. I'm not wanting anybody to go out there and take this personally. What this video here is just going over a guy. That's it. We're talking about one guy on the New York Rangers who performed in the series in round 1 of the playoffs, and we're going to go over the numbers, we're going to go over the performance, and just what this all means. So, the reason we're making this video is because we had ourselves a post made on the Twitters over here by Big Head Hockey. Now, Big Head Hockey, big shout out to those guys. They've been actually killing it the past few weeks with content, with interesting stats and numbers and things that pop up here. I've been seeing their feed on my social media timeline a lot more over the past little while here. But what they did was they tweeted out Alexis Lafreniere's stats from the first 7 games in this year's playoffs against the New Jersey Devils. Now, we know they lost. We know Game 7 was a doozy for the Rangers, and they got shut out, and it was bad, and it was not a good performance here. But when it comes to the rest of the other 6 games, plus that Game 7, how did Mr. First Overall in 2020 end up performing? Well, in the 7-game series, Alexis Lafreniere had 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, 0 penalty minutes, was a plus-minus of 0, had a 0% face-off percentage, and had 0 net takeaways too. First overall, Big Head Hockey says. Now, the face-offs is kind of unfair to put because the guy is a winger, so it's not necessarily his duty to have a high face-off percentage, now isn't it? But just all these other stats, the goals, the points, the plus-minus, the takeaways, that's not good. Now, I know there are some other combating elements that you have to bring up when discussing Alexis Lafreniere. Hey, the guy played pretty alright in Game 7, but the team didn't end up scoring any goals, therefore he didn't have any points. Okay, cool. I thought that Patrick Kane probably had the best game out of all the Rangers forwards in that Game 7. You could say Tyler Mott was kind of up there too. And Alexis Lafreniere, the kid line, they actually did have some opportunities, but at the end of the day, 0 points is still 0 points, especially in a 7-game series where the Rangers probably had themselves a good opportunity at giving the Devils a run for their money. It just didn't happen that way. And because this entire thing has been sort of trending the past little while, hey, guess what? Alexis Lafreniere had 0 points and he was not good. There are a few other things that get lost in the mix as well. Like this stat, for example. The fact that Alexis Lafreniere and Kaapo Kakko were the only 2 guys to have an expected goals for percentage above 50% at 5v5 in the series. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you tally up the expected goal chances for both sides when these players are on the ice, Lafreniere and Kakko were the only 2 players whose presence on the ice equated to an expected goals for percentage of above 50%, meaning that the Rangers had more opportunities on goal. Now, that doesn't really go out there and tell you anything when you acknowledge that Lafreniere still got 0 points, but this Reddit comment goes out there and describes it pretty well. Kaapo Kakko started out the series with a goal and an assist and a +3 plus-minus in the first 2 games, and then played 11:46 in a 70-minute game in Game 3. At some point, these kids will have to be given a chance to succeed, a bit of power play time, and some more minutes. Otherwise, they're just committing career suicide playing for the Rangers. Kakko could probably at least double his salary playing for a team like the Coyotes. And this kind of opens up the door to what Gerard Gallant prefers and how he deploys the players and who he decides to throw out there, but at the end of the day, the numbers still don't look great, and especially for a guy who was drafted first overall just 3 seasons ago. There was such a wild and crazy amount of expectation for this guy that at some point you gotta ask yourself, okay, when do you pull the plug? Is there an opportunity for the Rangers to even consider the idea of pulling the plug on the Alexis Lafreniere experiment? Do you see the inevitability of him eventually going to some other team? Is that even possible in your opinion? Now, there are some differing perspectives on that. Hey, because Lafreniere had himself a season where he technically did improve, he had 39 points in 81 games played this season compared to 31 in 79 games last year, but the playoff production definitely does go out there and take a little bit of a hit. Do you think there is some sort of a long-term future here? The guy does expire at the end of the season. He is on his ELC, so there's really no ammo that Lafreniere has in these contract negotiations, especially when you consider the caliber of talent that other guys have displayed around him in that same draft year. Lucas Raymond, of course, beast for the Red Wings. You have Tim Stützle, absolutely phenomenal player. Quinton Byfield outscored Lafreniere. The guy had, 4 points in 6 games against the Oilers, even though they lost that series in 6? So, for Alexis Lafreniere, if you really wanted to go out there and find a positive in this entire thing, this playoff performance where he had just no impact on the ice, you could say, in theory, this makes it easier to re-sign him to an affordable and cheap deal. It's just, you'd really have to be picking at the straws to try to find that justification as to how things are going well for Lafreniere, because it's clear that they're not. At some point, you gotta ask, man, what if some other one of these teams, the play-in series losers back in 2020, won that first overall pick? You gotta remember how everything went down. Do you remember this? The first overall pick was awarded to a play-in series loser. This was before the losers were even losing. And then you had yourselves the lottery done where each of the play-in losers had an equal chance of Lafreniere. This included Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Edmonton, Toronto, and of course, the Rangers. Had he gone to a team like the Maple Leafs, who knows how they would have developed him instead? What if the Winnipeg Jets won that first overall lottery, and they tried putting him in that spot to succeed in their middle six? What if the Penguins took Lafreniere, and you had Sidney Crosby, the other Rimouski guy who was a franchise talent potential player at the draft? You have him take Lafreniere under his wing and say, hey, this is what it's like, this is what you need to work on, this is what you need to improve upon. Instead, you have yourselves a Rangers organization that already fumbled the bag, sorta, with Capo Caco the prior year, and now Lafreniere is going through a similar thing. It's even worse, debatably career-threatening, and you gotta ask, where do you go from here, dude? I get it, it's one playoff series, the guy is still, 21 years old? There's time for Lafreniere to become a good player, but man, would you not have expected this out of the guy in his first 3 NHL seasons? Thoughts in the comment section below about Lafreniere and the way he performed against the New Jersey Devils. Do you think there's more than meets the eye here? Do you expect more, better things out of Lafreniere heading into the next few seasons of his career? Or do you see this as the inevitability of how the Rangers develop this guy, how he's adapted to the NHL game, where he's not really producing too many points? He's not the first overall caliber guy like we thought he was going to be back when he was drafted. Do you see more of a bleak future? I know it might seem a little bit quick and irrational to try to project good chunks of this player's future based off of what we had seen in one postseason series, but also think about the regular season. Also think about the progression from last year to this year, how the numbers haven't really grown. So thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.